Hi guys, I'm so glad you were able to join us this year for our Mastercam 2023 rollout. I'm Scott Lindsay and I want to show you our new toolpath for mill turn, and that is our B-axis contour turning toolpath. Keep in mind that this is for mill turn only. So let's go ahead and get started. There's a few things that we need to know about the toolpath, and I'll go over them as we go through it. So we'll start off. I've got all my stuff, my job setup already defined. I've faced it and I've roughed it out. So we'll go ahead and get our toolpath created. We'll come up to our turning and I'll drop my gallery down. I'm going to select the new toolpath, B-axis contour turning. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my level for my solid, and I've got my wireframe extracted for my turning profile. I'm going to chain from the chamfer to this chamfer here, and I'm going to green select. So you'll see that this came up with the same interface that we saw in our custom threading toolpath. First off, I want to select a tool. So right here, I've got an 80-degree OD rough toolpath selected. This is the same tool that my roughing toolpath used. The one thing that we got to pay attention to for tools is this toolpath requires that we have the compensation type set to center. So I'm going to come into my edit my tool, and we'll come over to our parameters, and we got to make sure that we have it set to center compensation. Most of your tools that you pull out of your library are probably going to be set to this. So double check, make sure you're set to center compensation, and that your tool is set up on the machine to use that type of compensation, and you'll be good on that part. So I've got my tool selected. I'm going to leave a lot of this stuff as default. I don't need anything on the machine. We can pop in here like my tool orientation, like how it's oriented around my head. That's all good. I don't need anything on the approaches or reference points. Geometry, we've already selected that. Lead in, lead out. We'll want to hop down here to our basic motion control, and you'll notice that I've got it selected on automatic. This is going to really let the toolpath decide how my tilting is happening, and letting it decide how that should happen. Generally, it is going to just take an average, or it's going to just do the minimum tilt that it needs to, and you'll see that in the examples. None of this other stuff I need to select. I'm going to just see what the automatic gives me. So I'm going to green select and pop back over here to my toolpath. And you'll see that I got something fairly quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and backplot this and see what I got. Okay, so first off, I can see that I'm starting at 90 degrees, which is about what I'd expect. And we're going to come in, we're turning across this section, and as we come up this wall, you'll notice that it starts to tilt in preparatory to come down this angle here. Okay, and you'll see that it's trying to clear this back of this corner of this holder here. And it's tilting just what it needs to clear that. It's coming through that floor, tilting back up, and it's going just a little bit beyond 90 to kind of create a little bit of clearance for this wall. So at first glance, that did exactly what it was supposed to do. And if that was all I had to worry about, it would be great. But you'll notice that it probably, some of you might have noticed that right through here, not too far beyond my chuck, maybe back here, I've got a machine wall, right? And I've got a huge spindle head that it's attached up here, and I probably just buried it through the wall through here. So I know that this toolpath is not going to work out. But otherwise, it did exactly what I told it to do. It cleared this back of this holder and tilted, did everything. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this toolpath down. I'm going to come back into the parameters and I'm going to switch the tool to a different tool. And I've got a 55-degree angle tool selected here. And I'm going to go ahead and pick that and green check and see what that'll give me. All right, so we've got that toolpath. Let's go ahead and backplot that and see what that gave me. Okay, so first off, I noticed that it's already pre-tilted itself before it even got into the toolpath. And we'll go ahead and backplot that. And I can see that it's just barely clearing the back of that holder. But it really it wasn't tilting throughout the toolpath. So what this toolpath found was that there was one angle that worked for the entire thing, and it locked in on that angle, and it made the entire cut with that angle. And that's a lot better than the prior one with the other tool. Okay, it's great and it's fine, but with these machines, I've noticed that it's better if we can lock in at like 90 or B0. It makes making the offsets easier because they're either in X or they're in Z, and you start to find those ones in between, and it's a combination of both of them, and they're a little harder to chase. They're doable, but they're a little harder. So let's go ahead and copy this down, and let's show you our one other option we got here to control this toolpath. So we're going to come down here to our motion control, and our other option is manual. If we select manual, it's wanting us to select our vector lines. So I'm going to bail out of here and let's go create those. Okay, so I'm going to come up to wireframe. I've got a level set here, and I've got it called B-axis turn vectors. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and draw some lines. I'm going to just select my first point here. So the first tilt line that it encounters is where that toolpath is going to start at. So from here to here, I want it to turn at 90 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and draw at the end point here. I'm going to just sketch up 90 degrees. Now the length of this line does not matter. We can put any length of line we want. They can be as short or as long as you want, just whatever looks good to you. So from here to here, I want it to be locked in at that angle. So as it tilts around this radius here, I want to give it a little bit more clearance along that wall, because the more I am straight to that wall, the more it's going to hit that wall, and it's not going to be super great on that tool. So I'm going to tilt this tool back here. We could go like, yeah, 80 degrees is a good number. We're tilting it back 10 degrees. So we'll go ahead and do that. And from here to the top of this chamfer, I want it to be locked in at that 80 degrees. So I need to draw two vector lines so that it tilts between these two, and then it stays locked in between these two. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this vector line out here, and I'm going to stick it in at 80 degrees, and I'm going to accept that. So now I want this section right through here to be turned at 90 degrees. So I need to draw me a vector line and get that to tilt. And your first instinct is to draw this vector line right here, and you wouldn't think anything of it. Now, the problem is that anytime that we have those vector lines that are intersecting at the same spot, it causes it to pick the first one that it comes across and ignore the second one. So we need to separate these intersections. So the only thing that we need to pay attention to is that the line touches my chain. Okay, it can be anywhere along that chain. It doesn't have to be at an endpoint. It just needs to touch the chain. So I'm going to go ahead and create that line, and I'm going to select it, and I'm going to do a dynamic transform, and I'm going to drop it here, and I'm going to just move that thing just a little bit. Just 5 thou. That's all I need. So I'm on a move. So I'm moving it. Green check. So now I've got that separated a little bit. So now I need to draw another vector line over here so that this stays in locked at 90 degrees. And then as we coming around this radius, I could probably turn this whole section from here all the way to here at that angle. This tool will probably do it, but it's going to be like really close to that back end of that folder. So I want to pivot that tool a little bit around that radius and just clear that back end just by a little bit more. So I'm going to draw this up here, and we'll probably go in at like, let's go 95 degrees. So we're just kicking it just a little bit more. Okay. We could go 100, but you know, from here to here, I'm starting to get pretty close to my chuck and my wall, so I really don't want to go too much. Okay, so I'm going to draw from there. So I want to stay locked in at this 95 degrees for this turn, right through here, right? So 95 degrees. And then I want to pivot so that this section's turned at 90 degrees again, right? So that's kind of what I prefer. So I'm going to draw this up at 90, and from here to here is 90. And I want to pivot this and kick it back and give me some clearance along this, cut up this wall of the part and my machine wall that's up here. So from here, I'm going to kick this back and I'm going to go, let's go 80 degrees on that guy, right? Oh, let's go more. Let's go 70. Like it says, these don't really matter, and you can come in and change them and move them around. But from here to here, and this last chain, it's going to finish out the rest of the part locked in at that angle. Unless I have another vector line that changes that, that's where it's going to go. Okay. So I'm going to hop back into my parameters here. I'm going to come back and select manual. Now, you do not need to select these in any specific order. I can select these in any order I want. As long as I select them all, the toolpath is going to do them in the order that it encounters them along the chain. So I've got them all selected, green check, and regenerate. Let's see what we get. All right, there we go. Got our toolpath. Let's take a look at it, see how it did. So starting at 90, turned across there. We're going to pivot back a little bit, turn that, kick back up to 90, turn that section. We're going to tilt forward a little bit, turning down that radius, start to pivot back, turning about 90, and then we're going to kick that back and turn that up that wall. Exactly what I wanted it to do. So I hope that this shows you what you can do with this toolpath, and I'm interested to see how you guys implement it. And again, thanks for joining us this year. Have a good one.